Hi, I want to really thank you so much to the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions for giving me this public service award, which is so meaningful to me because you've been my partner all these years, and we had such a big success when Governor Baker finally signed the Public Lands Preservation Act in November of this past year. And I've been working on this bill for the whole 24 years that I've served in the legislature. And I've been working with you that whole time. And first of all, I want to thank you not only for this recognition, but also for all the great work you do all over the state, protecting our very precious public parks. I want to just take a moment to sort of share with you what this journey, I guess you could call it, has been like for me. I started working on this when I first got to the legislature, a little more than 24 years ago. I was appointed to the Joint Committee on Local Affairs. And that was the committee at the time that reviewed and heard all the bills that were filed by municipalities to transfer parkland. Most especially, there were a lot of bills from municipalities to construct public schools on parks. And there I was, a new legislator serving on this committee, and the first bill that came up to put a school on a park, the room was filled with people who were environmental activists. Maybe some of you were in that room, I don't remember. But people began to testify in opposition to the bill, which surprised many of the legislators because those bills were looked at as just routine home rule petitions, just go along with what the local community wants. But a group of environmental activists spoke and said, nothing wrong with building new schools, but we don't want to lose our parks that way. And I guess that's when I first learned about Article 97 of the state constitution and the protection of our public parkland. And there was actually an interesting alliance with the historic preservationists who pointed out, you could be rehabbing some of these old, beautiful historic schools instead of building on parks. And so the committee started to notice that there were a whole lot of these bills coming before us. And so the chairwoman of that committee at the time, a woman named Marie Parenti, appointed me, saw that she and I felt the same about these bills, and she created a subcommittee and appointed me to be the chair. And the subcommittee was on the loss of public parkland and construction of new schools. And we published a report. Here it is. I still have it. It's dated March 2000. And we discovered that the School Building Assistance Authority had a policy of creating an incentive. They gave more reimbursement to those that were new schools rather than rehabilitated. And we ended up partnering with then the late Governor Paul Cellucci, whose no net loss policy was being threatened by this. It was he and then Secretary Bob Durand who had developed the no net loss policy. And Governor Cellucci ended up making sure that school building assistance incentive disappeared. But that really wasn't the end of my work on this, because it wasn't just, while the number of projects involving schools did diminish very dramatically after that, communities continued to come forward with different plans for transferring public land. And so I then discovered that there was a bill. It was then called the No Net Loss Bill, and then Representative Pamela Rezor was the lead House sponsor. She got elected to go to the Senate the next session, and so where I had taken an interest in this, she asked me to take on the role of being the lead House sponsor. And I guess you could say the rest is history, because I then filed what was then called the No Net Loss bill. At some point, it became the Public Lands Preservation Act, and I filed it every session after that, partnering first with Pam Resor and then her successor, Senator Jamie Eldridge, until this very last session when we finally got passed into law. And during those years, I had many partners, and the Mass Association of Conservation Commission was certainly one of them, many of the other key environmental organizations. And then there was, of course, one individual, a man named Phil Saunders, who sort of emerged as the point person, and was the person I consulted with at all times. We redrafted the bill periodically. We kept trying to make it better so we could win the support of the legislature. And last session, well, really the session before last, a new leadership came into the House, and with the support of Chairman Aaron Michaelwitz and Speaker Ron Mariano, this bill finally started moving. And it was very exciting. We went through a little bit of a challenge. The Senate filed a different version. We had a very wonderful conference committee that went on for many months. And the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, along with other members of the coalition, were key during those final meetings, because they were really advising us on some of the core principles that we might incorporate into the final bill. And they were really great. And the bill came out as terrifically as it did, really because of the input. And I have to special shout out to Dot McGlincy, who has been a fabulous partner and a fabulous leader on this effort to protect our public lands. Sadly, our friend Phil Saunders did not live to see the final passage of this bill that he worked on for so many years, but his daughter, Elizabeth Saunders, who's a leader in the environmental community in her own right, stepped up to make sure that her dad's work would go to completion. And really working with Senator Eldridge, working with Elizabeth Saunders, working with Dot McGlincy and many others in the coalition, with the support of the House leadership and the support finally of the conference committee and Governor Baker's signature. And I said to Governor Baker that I thought it was very fitting that he be the governor that signed this, because he was really kind of a protege of Paul Cellucci, and this was really Paul Cellucci's vision that we were codifying. So it has been a labor of love. Sometimes it felt more like labor than love, but because, there were challenges, but we met the challenges. And I'm so proud of this accomplishment of really codifying the no net loss policy and protecting our very precious parkland. And I really appreciate your giving me the opportunity to share the story, and for honoring me and for honoring all of us and celebrating this wonderful accomplishment. So thank you so much for this great honor. I really appreciate it.